How are you doing? Welcome to live stream number 167. Today's topic is today's best Fusion 360 questions and answers. So what we try to do just about once a week here. I'm having a hard time catching up with all the emails I get, so I just try to answer some of the best ones here. That should hopefully mean that there's something for everybody when it comes to the different topics. We have about, we got about 4 or 5 we got to go through here today. I got them all written down on a list here. My name is Lars Christensen, and this is just trying to add a little bit more value to your Fusion 360 experience. It is May 31st. That means tomorrow is June. Summer is on us. I hope you're doing good. All right, I can see we already got people in here, so no really big reason to hold up. Let's jump into it. Let's get over into Fusion. So the first question I got from Christian. Christian is trying to 3D print cookie cutters. There's something I can be a fan of. Love me some cookies. And one of the things that Christian had found was that when he 3D prints the cookie cutter, that it's kind of dull on the side that he's going to press it through the cookie. So he wants to make it a little bit sharper. Well, I'll show you 2 different ways to deal with this, Christian. I hope this is somewhat useful. If we just make a very very basic cookie cutter, I guess. Let's open a sketch here, and I'm gonna select the ellipse tool. It's very rare that I ever get a chance to use that. Select the ellipse tool, and let's just make an ellipse here. Nothing too fancy. Now, what I probably would do with this is you would kind of maybe not extrude it. Maybe you wanted to offset it. So O for offset, just to give kind of like this cookie cutter a little bit of thickness. Let's make it 3.5 millimeters. And then we could go ahead here and we could extrude this one way or the other, whatever we kind of want to go with here. But like I think Christian's experience is that, you know, when he 3D printed this, it's kind of flat at the end, and he needs something that is more sharp. So one thing you actually could do if you wanted to, in the extrude command, if we go back and edit it again, be aware of that there is an angle tool here, and it will actually go and make itself sharp. So now it will bulk up here the way this ellipse is, as you can see here on the side view. But this could be helpful if we go in and do something like a section analysis. Maybe turn the audio on, cut through it here. You will see that made it sharp. So that was just right inside of the edit command in the extrude feature. You can actually play with the angle in there, and that is, you know, I think that's one of those commands that most people kind of forget about. If I let me get out of this. If I just do something as simple as a rectangle, S key. I want to have the center rectangle on here. Center rectangle. I'm going to put it up in my S key. So now it's up there. S key, center rectangle, do something like this. If we just standard extrude, right? Standard extrude, well, you got this handle here, and you can actually add some angle on here. Another function, of course, is there is a draft. Let me make this 0. Oops. There is a draft command you could also try to use. Select the plane, select this plane, could select the face, could be this face, and then we could draft that plane in there. So that is kind of the modeling tips. Now, just because I know that Christian might be doing something a little bit more complex than what I'm doing here, So if I go out here and say insert SVG file, and let's select this top face, select open. I have an SVG file that I found online of a lion. That would be my cookie cutter. Would be a lion. Let me just delete this text out of here. Delete. Now in here, this is going to be a lot harder to do any type of pointy sharp edge, like knife edge on, because all this geometry would kind of collapse in on itself. Now you might think that could you do something like a loft, but this is a difficult part. So what I would do if I was Christian was I would probably make my cookie cutter by, again, inside of the sketch, for offset. And I would offset a very thin wall. Many cookie cutters actually don't have a sharp edge, right? They're just very, very thin. So like 1 millimeter thick here, and just do your press pull, and that would be sharp enough. 1 millimeter should be thin enough to cut. You could make it thinner maybe, to cut through that. And maybe go ahead and open another sketch, C for circle. Maybe we make a little handle to hold on to. Something like that. And that would be my cookie cutter for the lion. So not trying to make this sharp. And like I said, it's literally because these edges was kind of like collapsing. You could... I actually went in and I kind of got intrigued, and I started going in with surfacing tools, but I mean that's not an easy task. It can be done, but it would take a lot more work than I think it's worth compared to this trick. So that was for Christian. Hope you're watching this, Christian. Hope that you finding this one helpful. The next one is from Visual. I hope I have pronouncing your name correctly. Visual is a student who is working on a electrical DC motor, and I just modeled a simple version of that up here. So Visual sent me an email. So think about this as different components. There's a shaft, there's a back housing, a front housing, and then Visual is talking about this front ring, the golden ring he calls it, so I made it gold. And talking about how do I control the dimensions of this ring, so no matter if I go in and change the shaft diameter or the length of some of these things, can I guarantee that this ring will stay, let's say, 2 by 2 millimeters? And that brings up one of my favorite ways to model inside of Fusion if I'm working with something like this. I would call this like a assembly. You see we have, in this case, 4 different components, and that is what is called layout sketches. I actually have one sketch that is controlling everything. And that sketch is under the main assembly here. You will see that I have a sketch, and I can go in here, we can edit it. I have a sketch drawn up, and this sketch is driving everything within all the other components. I've talked about this type of sketch before, and what I mean by it, I think it's easy. So what I can do is, if we, for example, go in Visual and we're changing the diameter of the center rod to, let's say we make it twice as big, 4 millimeters, these dimensions are controlling that ring will always be that 2 by 2. You can see I can go in and change all these diameters here, and that ring will always stay 2 by 2. I made a live stream, for example, let's bring this one down to like 6. Brings this all the way to the front. Again, I hit stop sketch, and the ring is still staying 2 by 2. And the way I normally do this is starting a brand new document, and then you make a sketch that contains maybe not every detail, but the main kind of layout structure of your part. So for example, this case here, we're gonna have a shaft that's gonna be 70 millimeters long. It's gonna be a total diameter of 4, so we're gonna make it 2 because that is half. We're gonna rotate around this side. Then we're gonna have a back housing, and we're just gonna draw a 2-point rectangle here, and we're gonna make this diameter here. Let's make it 12. Let's make this 30. And then this ring that I was talking about, I can literally just sketch that somewhere like this. And I'm going to go in here and say I want that to be 2 from this to the axis 2. And this is now a fully defined sketch. And with this sketch created, I will now go up and say, all right, now I'm going to go ahead and right click and say new component. And this component, I'm going to, rename it. So that's going to be the shaft. And with that component active, I'm going to go in and do a revolve. And I'm literally just going to select that segment I want, revolve it around the center axis. Boom, and there is the shaft inside the shaft folder. Now it's still that original layout sketch I created in the beginning that is driving that. I can continue and go in and say new component, and we can call that housing. And then I can go with that active, I can go in again and do another revolve. I'm just going to turn the sketch on, and I can go in here and select, that segment here. Going to revolve around the same axis as the ring. So that's my housing. And let's just do the last one. What is the golden ring? As Visual called it. The golden ring. Again, I'm going to just use revolve. There's the ring there. Revolve it around the center line there. That's our golden ring. Right click appearances. Metal, gold. Draw that on there. Now it is golden. So now we have this created, and if I go into the sketch, right click and edit the sketch, that will literally drive everything. So if I change this to 50, you will see that 2x2 is still controlled. Now you could decide to do different things in here, but this is a one way to control that when you update things are kind of keeping up to date. I hope Visual. I hope that made sense. I hope this is good. We've got 81 people on here. I can see that we already got people commenting in, love in the live stream. Absolutely appreciate it. Next one is from Tim. Tim is asking in regards to the right mouse button. He's trying to find, I don't think I have done a video specifically on the right mouse button, but you know what? I use it quite a bit. So I thought I would share with Tim and the rest of you guys how I normally use that right mouse button. So anywhere inside of the field, you can right click and this menu pops up. There's kind of two sections to this menu. There's a section in here where you can, with the right click, you can go over and you can kind of select natural commands, or you can move down here. And actually, if you didn't know, inside of these drop downs, you see all these pop-out menus? That is all the same menus that you see up here. Okay? So if you are a real power user, and I so I gotta admit that I'm not that anymore. But actually, when I used to work at Ridlam, I actually spent quite a bit of getting better with my CAD software by slowing down and getting used to finding commands in here. Because if you just can right click anywhere in space and go right in and find whatever you're looking for, it's a lot faster than moving up here. But you almost got to slow down in the beginning to get faster. Kind of a funny thing. There's kind of three things that you will see that I will use inside of this right mouse button. One is if I go in here and add a chamfer, for example. Let's add a chamfer to this part here. And I then want to add another chamfer. I will normally right click, and the first one up here is the repeat. It will remember your last command. Okay, so that's one thing. If you right click, repeat the last command. So you can just click that, and now you're back into the last command. Another one, right click, is the move copy. That if you ever see me move something, then that is normally how I get to that one. Right click, and you can now go in and you can use the move copy command. I have done a live stream on this one, how to become a Jedi on the move copy tool. You should definitely check that one out if you haven't. And the last one was the one you already saw that I used, was the appearances to apply textures. But now where I'm at it, I actually want to show you a little trick about the right menu, because it's actually pretty smart. If I open up a sketch, and let me just draw a line here, let's draw something like this. Did you know, we have all the constraints over here, and if you didn't know that if you select a line, this constraint will actually kind of filter down to what it could be, but it will actually also do that with the right click. So if you select a line and you right click, Fusion will actually in the right click menu kind of give you a couple of suggestions to constraints. So we'll make that one vertical. Take this one here. If I right click, if I click on this, select this line, right click, you can see that I can go in and make it horizontal. If I go in and do something like a, let's do a 3-point arc, select an arc and do this. Then if I select these two entities, control select, right click, now it actually give me tangency. You will see over here that it filtered down over here too. But here we have the tendency. So that right click menu should definitely not be ignored. That is definitely important. Hope this is useful, friends. Best questions and answers of the day. Second last one, we're almost out of time. Second last one is from Bob. And Bob sent an email talking a little bit about, being a brand new user, and sometimes it's confusing trying to figure out, how to do different things. And two things that Bob pointed out. One was, how do I share files with people? What is the best way to share with other people? And the second question was, if somebody's using something like SolidWorks, can they use a Fusion file? That's a good question. You should know that if you don't already know that. So my favorite way to share a file is to open up my data panel by going out and click on these 9 small squares, right click on the file, and then share a public link of that file. So when I share this one, I can click here to say I want to share the latest version, and then you have a couple different options. I can copy this, and this is just a link, and when the person opens this link, they can then download the file. Be aware of, you can require a password in there, so they have to have a password if you want to. But this is my favorite way to share files with anyone. Right click and say share a public link, then they will get that link. They can click on it and they can then download it. The other option you can do is you can go up to the top of the data panel. You can click People, and you can actually type somebody's email address, and they will now have an option to be invited into this project. And so in this case, it would be all these, they would have access to all these files I had in here, and could work along with me. So this is more like if you have somebody you want to work together with. Now, if you are a bigger place where you have more people, there is something called Fusion Team. If you Google Fusion Team, that is more oriented like if you're a company and you have 4 or 5 people who's got to work together on projects. The other question that Bob had was, what if somebody using another CAD program, he said SolidWorks, how can I share a file with them? Well, actually, when they go to download that link, it's pretty much like if they went out on the browser. So what I just did was I clicked the top name up here. That's going to open up my browser. And just give it a second. And if we click on one of these parts here, if I click here, they will get this download option. And in here, if you're using something, I mean, you can see Inventor in here, but if you're using something like SolidWorks, you probably want a step file or an IGES file. That is kind of like the two that SolidWorks would open up and work with as fully solid models. You could also do that from within the software. If you click up on the file drop down and you say export, then in here you would also be able to select IGES or a step file. Cool. All right, we got 92 people in here. So that is absolutely awesome. Wrap it out with the last one. The last one's going to be Cam. Jim asked a good question in regards to converting NC files. And there was also a question about and I couldn't find it again. Somebody asked a question. I have a China something mill. How do I get a post? And both of those are post related. So let's attack those. First, to Jim's question. Jim, let me open up a file that actually has some toolpath in it. So here we have some toolpath. If I go ahead and I post out this code, and Jim had a Mag-free mill, you will see that it's post out as an extension that is .tap. I'm gonna go ahead and do it here. Let me throw it on my desktop. TAP. Save that. This is inside of the post that controls this, Jim. So if you want that changed, just hang on 2 seconds, because then I'm going to get into how you can get your posts. But if you, in the meantime, and I would change it, if you're always looking for an NC file, I would not do what I'm about to show you. But I want you to be aware of, let me just hide this, and let me just go over to my desktop and find this tab file. So it looks very lonely on that screen. Be aware of that you can actually just right click on this and you can rename it, and you can actually to .nc, and it's gonna come up and say, are you sure this might make it unusable? But I tested it out, and if you do that, then it will actually, it's still an NC file, it still has the code in it, you will still be perfectly okay to use this file. But post modification is the easiest way to go to that, and that goes to I got to show to the other person who had this China machine. Do this. Type in Autodesk posts. Autodesk post library. They just revamped this site, so it's cam.autodesk.com. HSM posts. And this is where you will find all the different posts that are available for you to download for free. I should say to whoever it was who posted the question about they had a China machine something. It's not what machine you have, it's what controller you have. And you will find that most of, if a post reads a generic code, then, or if your machine reads generic code, then pretty much most post processors will work, like a FANOC or even like the Mag-free, the Haas or whatever it is. But you can go in and you can search for whatever controller you're going to be using for this. And for GM, if you do want to make changes to your post, you can either do it yourself. The posts are you can fully go in and do it yourself. But in here, you also now have options to go out and you can pay a sum to get certain things changed in your post, because you can go crazy with a post processor like that. So go out and check that out if you want to get more into detail with that. That was all that I had planned on showing today. I hope that this was the best Fusion 360 questions and answers. Something for everybody, I hope. Should be, that's the goal. It gives me a chance to not feel so guilty that I can't keep up on the emails that you guys are sending. I will say my email address is down in the description area. Any future topics you would like to see, absolutely more than welcome to email them to me. I have to admit, I am falling behind on answering emails one by one. I apologize. I will someday try to make up for it. I'm convinced that someday I'm gonna be on an island and I'm just gonna find the time. I hope this was useful. If you like it, do me a favor, thumbs up. If you don't, be honest, thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would truly appreciate if you would take the time to do that. That was all I planned on showing today. If you are watching the recording, thank you so much. I'm going to end the broadcast. And if you're inside of the live stream chat, I'm going to come in and say hi to everybody. Take care, everybody, and have an awesome